Welcome to the Pit Check, your weekly news for the best new albums from your favorite heavy bands. Okay, so while I was putting my list together this week, I noticed something kind of interesting. If you've watched this channel before, you know my tastes can kind of vary pretty wildly. For example, last week I covered both Knives.
It's a statement, a suffocation of bliss. He raises his hands as he shoots from the hip.
And Mauled. So normally when I put together my list of metal/core albums, I have to pull from all these different sources and press releases, and I try to get a good mix of everything from hardcore punk to death metal to prog, you get it. But this week, it's like everyone got together and decided to just release the heaviest albums possible. As I was going through them, it was just one after another, each album was getting heavier than the last. And my list ended up with all these deathcore and slam bands, and then Sleep Token, which, by the way, the album is great, you should check it out. So instead, this week, we're just gonna take a look at some of these absurdly heavy bands. If you need some face-melting beatdown hardcore, slam, or deathcore, then this is the episode for you. But don't worry, we've also got a couple metalcore bands and even some classic death metal, black metal bands too, just in case those aren't really your style. There's a lot of good stuff this week. And of course, like always, at the end of the episode, I'll have a list of all of the albums that we did and did not cover, so there's plenty to check out this week. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's get right into this week's best and heaviest new albums. Like I said up top, some of these bands we're going to talk about aren't all about breakdowns, and this is probably the most famous of all the bands that we're going to talk about this week, so we might as well start here. Do you need some blasphemous death metal? The legendary Polish Blackened death metal band Behemoth are back with their 13th studio album, The Shit of God. Okay, and that's obviously the first thing we have to talk about here. If you couldn't already tell, this band has a problem with organized religion. I mean, preach, girl. But still, a lot of times the lyrics can be a little too on the nose for my liking. And as I've said many times with bands that aren't native English speakers, I can kind of forgive the lack of subtlety in their lyrics. And if you can too, you'll be surprised how much this album kind of rips. The instrumentals here are top of their game. This album has way more riffs and is way heavier than anything they've really released in the past decade. Much like the band Hate, who also released an album last week, this is some of that classic 90s death metal meets black metal. They love incorporating these massive atmospheric and symphonic elements for that opera of death metal sound. This one is obviously going to be highly divisive, but I genuinely had a good time with this one, with the last 3 tracks in particular being top tier Behemoth. So you know what, I'd definitely recommend giving this one a shot and see if it vibes with you. Alright, actually real quick, let's do one more Blackened death metal band before we get to all the breakdowns. Do you want some melodic black metal? The Blackgaze band Ghostbath is back with their latest album, Rose Thorn Necklace. If you love blending gorgeous atmospheric and melodic overtones with crushing black metal, and in particular if you're a fan of Death Heaven's album Sunbather, you need to check out this new release. Like Death Heaven, if you loved explosions in the sky but wanted more black metal, then this is the album for you. It's surprisingly beautiful and uplifting, despite having these throat-ruining shrieks and just haunting vocals across the board. This is going to be for a very specific crowd, but I have a feeling if this sound resonates with you, it's gonna hit hard. This is a stunningly beautiful album, and I highly recommend it to any fans of black metal that want to feel strangely euphoric and at peace. Okay, now on to the breakdowns. Members from the Acacia strain, No Cure, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and Pure Bliss have all teamed up to create this new supergroup, Stolen Gun. Go to! Honestly, this might be the hardest demo released this year so far, and there's been a lot of good ones. This band manages to flawlessly blend beatdown hardcore, death metal, and grindcore into a surprisingly unique and disgustingly heavy sound. Now, unfortunately, supergroups can a lot of times sound disappointingly generic, and they're usually not really able to capture the specific strengths of all their members, but that is not the case here. When it comes to the instrumentals and songwriting, everyone is locked in. Drums, bass, guitar, everyone is on the same wavelength and absolutely shredding. This band wants to give you that relentless heaviness while also pushing the boundaries of these genres. And of course, the vocals from Vincent Bennett of the Acacia strain are show-stopping. I've always loved his high screams, and here they are piercing and overwhelming. But don't worry, he also showcases his signature lows. I was beyond impressed with this demo, and I know it literally just came out, but I'm already begging for more. I mean, maybe that has something to do with the fact that it's 11 minutes long, but still, this is an incredible debut release, and it has such a clear and precise vision. You would think these guys have been writing together for years. I highly recommend checking out Demo 2025 by Stolen Gun. Want some stupidly heavy beatdown hardcore and slam? The band Backbiter is a brutally heavy hardcore band with some serious deathcore and slam running through its veins. And they've just released their newest album, Misery Tapes, Volume 1. I love how much fun they're having just being as heavy as humanly possible. If you miss bass drops in your breakdowns, you'll be pleasantly surprised here. These are some of the most insanely hard-hitting breakdowns I've heard in a while. Every single song makes you want to throw yourself through a brick wall like the Kool-Aid Man. I also quickly want to point out how good this album sounds, like from a recording quality. The guitars are so crunchy and bone-rattling, you can feel every riff in your soul. And the drums are sharp and cut right through the mix, especially with that dodgeball garbage can snare. If you want 15 minutes of absolute domination, that's what she said, then you need to check out this new album from the band Backbiter. Need some Bay Area beatdown hardcore? Manos de Fierro is a tough-as-nails hardcore band, and they have just released their debut self-titled album. It If you love down-tempo riffs, nasty as hell breakdowns, and the vocalist talking shit to you for 18 minutes straight, then this is the band for you. Seriously though, I love how goofy this band is. I have a soft spot for bands that are self-aware about how stupidly heavy their music is, and these are those lyrics that perfectly reflect that.
Fucking to it! Let the screaming want to feel in your head.
The instrumentals here are also really fun and driving. I love how high the bass is in the mix, and the guitars are simple but effective, keeping the songs really streamlined and aggressive. I had a really great time with this one, so if you like some really punchy and punishing beatdown hardcore that is also just a really good time, definitely check out Manos de Fierro and their newest self-titled LP. Ever heard Lovecraftian deathcore? The German band Obey the Kraken has just released their debut album, Worship the Sunken God. Honestly, I'm gonna call it right now, this band is gonna be huge if they can keep this momentum up. This album is not only beyond heavy, it's also just technically impressive in literally every single way. The guitars are a lot more technical and intricate than you would expect them to be, and of course the drummer is non-stop throughout the entire album, and the screamer also just has so much vocal range. Not only are his highs amazing, but when he goes low, he keeps finding ways to go even lower. But most importantly, I really want to highlight the songwriting here. With every single detail, they step their game up more than what would be expected of them. It's like they went through every song with a fine-tooth comb to find the perfect ways to elevate every element. I was absolutely blown away by the construction of these songs. Although I will admit I'm not the biggest fan of all of these interludes, even though they are important to the story that they're trying to tell. But still, 30 seconds ago you hit me with the heaviest breakdown with an 808 bass drop in it, and you expect me to sit still through a monologue?
Shattered to ruins. Its once proud civilization disfigured to
For real though, this is an amazing release. Honestly, I think they'll have a lot of crossover appeal with technical death metal crowd and also the slam crowd. I highly recommend this very underrated deathcore band, Obey the Kraken. Want some Scandinavian slam? The Icelandic slamming brutal death metal band Divine Defilement is back with their newest album, Ruthless. I love how monstrously heavy this album is. This band has been historically extremely technical instrumentally, and that's still here. The guitarists are always shredding and riffing. And of course the drummer is still disgusting. But I love this new inclusion of these absolutely brain-dead caveman slam segments. And I want to make this clear, these slam segments clearly weren't just included because slam is so hot right now. This is some of the most creative and interesting implementation of slam I've heard in a long time. The pacing and flow of this album is also perfect. This album is so well thought out from the listener perspective. It gives you the exact amount of heaviness you want exactly when you want it. And it knows right when to kick in the technical guitar work when you're tired of the more caveman elements. way this band fuses their fierce and technical death metal with sheer brutality is masterful, and I love the back and forth between their two vocalists for this non-stop guttural attack. So if you need some brutal slamming tech death, I highly recommend the band Divine Defilement, and make sure to spell it wrong, and their newest album, Ruthless. An apt name. Ever heard deathcore for gamers? The band Hellth is back with their newest album, The Glitch.
You have smelly body parts? Smelly under your arms and the armpits? Just put some vinegar on it. Why didn't you think of that? For your health.
This is some insanely weird and glitchy deathcore with tons of electronic and video gamey elements. If you liked the Doom soundtrack but wanted it to be even more evil and chaotic, then this is the album for you. I really liked how much this band is willing to get grimy and guttural, but then also have surprisingly melodic and catchy hooks, and really fun and bouncy guitars. There's also some alien metal style technical guitar work, along with these synths and atmospheric elements, and I love how crazy this vocalist is, with up-tempo, almost rapping screams, and devastatingly heavy lows. If you need a super fun and weird and good vibes deathcore album, give this new release Requiem by the band Hellth a shot. And now, as promised, here's the list of all the bands that we did and did not cover this week. There's a lot of good stuff in here, so I highly recommend checking some of these out if any of them look interesting to you. And yeah, that's it. I'll catch you next week for another round of metal and hardcore album reviews.